Thank you. The negative team is not suggesting that the media as it is now can't do things better, but to suggest that it can prevent violence against women is to both underestimate the scale of the problem as well as overestimating the media's capacity for radical change. And it is radical change that's needed, not just in the news media, but right across the entertainment media as well, film, drama, comedy, reality TV, everything. Because violence against women is a problem that's enabled, perpetuated and excused by sexism. Everyday sexism that can seem benign or unimportant in the way that it normally manifests, but is actually anything but these things. And it's firstly really important to recognise that domestic violence and sexual violence against women are always and only significant problems when men and women are not valued in a society, valued equally in a society. So anthropologist Peggy Sanday found that the more strongly patriarchal and sex-segregated a tribal society was, the more rape-prone that it would be, and vice versa. So tribal societies where sexism was negligible were almost invariably rape-free, and it was considered an aberration. So we do know that violence against women is about control and domination, and we also know that the men who abuse and or kill their female partners in order to do so don't come up with these ideas by themselves. And these kinds of ideas only make sense in a society that values women for their appearance and their sexuality rather than their mind and capabilities, that positions women's place in the home and men's in the public domain, that values men's words above women's in the workplace, in public fora, in private conversations. And these types of attitudes saturate media in sometimes overt, but often in very subtle ways. We see these kinds of attitudes appearing in big media events like the Brownlow Medal coverage and the Melbourne Cup. We celebrate women's glamour and style and the revealing clothing that they might be wearing. We see it in film and TV that shows men always as the instigators of romantic relationships and who pursue women who clearly aren't interested but get rewarded for it anyway. We also see male dominance made to appear natural in stories that are supposed to be about humanity and human issues, but are actually just about men. Like, as one example, the film Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, where the ape and human women do very little apart from get sick and prevent each other from getting sick. The film is about the relationship between the lead men and the apes, the male apes. And these kinds of relationships are typical of these kinds of stories, which suggests that male leadership is natural, male dominance is natural. Women should listen to men because they know what they're talking about, and men are therefore superior to women. So when these kinds of ideas that seem benign and that might go under the radar of most people are considered normal, it's therefore no surprise that significant numbers of men feel that they're entitled to stalk and control women, to access their bodies and to harm them if they refuse. And it's also no surprise when news media reports might comment on the dress or behaviour of a female victim of violence, even if it's not specifically saying, what was she doing? It can be in much more subtle ways. So just as one example, there's a Weekend Australian article about the Jill Meagher murder that described her as a dark-haired beauty in a short skirt with shapely legs. And the video footage was like a wildlife documentary of a gangly doe oblivious to its predator. So it doesn't come out and say directly, well, it was her fault because she was wearing a short skirt. But it's positioned in this article that it therefore makes her vulnerable, like a doe, like a deer who's being stalked by a predator. So if looking sexy is a woman's main attribute and men are naturally dominant, then, well, she must have provoked it. She should have known that someone would attack her if she went walking at night, especially in a short skirt with shapely legs. So these ideas are all interlinked. They intersect, they reinforce each other for perpetrators, for bystanders, and for the victims who blame themselves. So in order for media to challenge attitudes like this that support violence against women at their roots in everyday sexism, it would take radical change. But there are aspects of the way that media industry is structured that make this particularly difficult. The ownership and control aspects of media severely limit the scale of change that is possible. Australian media has one of the highest concentrations of ownership in the world. Big media corporations are owned by a small number of mostly men with mostly conservative worldviews. And concentration of ownership does severely restrict the diversity of media content. A second significant influence on media content is advertising. So commercial media does rely heavily on advertisers for its revenue. And so media corporations are, in a sense, selling audiences' eyeballs to advertisers, if you like. Advertisers invest in programming that's going to draw lots of eyeballs. And also they prefer programming that is conducive to buying products. And it is a simplification, but nothing too upsetting or challenging to the audience is the advertiser's dream. So mainstream media is therefore more likely to confirm established gender norms, established assumptions of any type far more than it will challenge them. So this can result in a kind of inertia. Audiences aren't mindless automatons, wouldn't suggest that for a minute, but they do typically consume media that fits with their worldview. And if audiences keep tuning in, there's no incentive for media content to change. If audiences tune out because to media content that doesn't fit their worldview, well, there's the huge incentive for media programming to just maintain the status quo. So much as individuals within media corporations might want to bring about positive widespread change and help to confront and challenge the ideals that justify and promote violence against women, the system just won't allow it.